Hey everybody, this is Dave from Growing the Home Garden. Today I'm doing one of my favorite things and getting some seeds started. You'll note today that this is the Oregon Sugar Pod 2. Okay, they are a pea that I'm going to pre-soak and then go ahead and plant and pre-start them so that I have them ready to go into the garden. The instructions typically are on the back of these, and they tell you to direct sow in early spring. Of course, we're still in the middle of February, but for us, the conditions are right in Tennessee to go ahead and do these. So I'm going to start off. I just took this little sandwich deli meat container that we had left over, cleaned it out real good. You see, notice it's got a top and a bottom to it. And here's the easy part. Okay, I'm going to pour in some water, and we're going to pre-soak it so that these seeds get all the moisture that they need to get started. We're going to do this for 24 hours. And then tomorrow I'll take these soaked seeds. Let me show you a couple here. That's what these seeds look like. See, they're larger, and so we want to make sure that they get real good moisture throughout the seed itself to break through the seed coat. All right, so I'm just going to kind of sprinkle all these in. They'll have about 4.5 inch long seed pods that you can freeze, you can use in stir fries, you can cook with them. You can eat them right out of the garden if you want to. They're very similar to sugar snap peas, which I'm also going to get some of those started here. Not today, but I need to get some more seeds for that. But I'm going to put these in here. I'm going to put the lid on it, and mostly so that nothing happens to them. And that's it. In 24 hours, I'm going to take them out, and I'm going to plant them individually into what I use are these coir pot containers. That's made of coconut fiber. You see there, that's a used one I had from last year. But after I've put soil in these, I can go in and plant the seeds into each one of those, and then I can cut them or separate them off to plant them out individually and space them properly in the garden after they've germinated. So I can pre-start them, and I'll do that inside my garage on some heat mats. And once those are pre-started, I can go ahead and put them out in the garden. So I'll be back with you when I've got a little bit more accomplished here after 24 hours of seed soaking, and then we'll just kind of update you as we go. Okay, we're back, and here we are about 24 hours later, and here are the Oregon Sugar Pod 2s that have had a good overnight and most of a day to get plenty of water. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is get my tray prepared, which I've gone ahead and already put it together with an organic potting soil mix. You see that? I'm just not going to worry about those two little cells there, but these are the coir husks, the waste product from the coconut industry that is made into these pots. They're completely biodegradable, but in my experience it does take a while for them to actually break down, so that's fine though. They're porous enough that the roots from pretty much every plant will just pop right on through. And I've got them in what's called a 10-20 tray. In this tray, you can see there's holes underneath it, so that's for drainage. But I'm going to nest it while I have it in my garage under the heat lamps in a different type of a 10-20 tray that does not have the holes. So essentially, you're going to have one nested into the other. That way it'll catch the water and won't make a big mess everywhere. So I'm just going to take these seeds, which you can see they've kind of grown in size. They've absorbed a lot of moisture. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to lightly press them on. I'm just going to drop them until I get it all mapped out here. First step. This is really easy to do. I probably have more seeds than I really have a spot for in the tray, so maybe I'll direct sow a couple of them out to the vegetable garden and see if they'll grow straight out there first rather than worry about pre-starting everything. So in these particular coconut pots, coir pots, are made in sets of 8, and you can come back later, cut them with scissors or something. They are a little tough to just break apart. but they also don't fall apart on you if they get it too moist like a peat pot would. So I've got one seed per spot here. And if you notice here, made a little mess in that, but we've got quite a few other seeds that are hanging out, still soaking in the water. Those I'll just go ahead and put out in the vegetable garden here after I'm done with these and see what happens with them. So I'm going to come back to these seeds and I'm just going to press them in. Okay, with my fingers, push them in. The general rule of thumb is that you want it to be at least as deep as the seed is, pretty much one extra time. So you push it down in there and cover it up with the existing soil. And then I'll come back and I'll water these. Now when watering them, what's kind of neat is you don't necessarily have to water each seed pot. You can water in the little space that I've got left here, and it will all wick up into the soil from underneath, so you're not having to displace a whole lot of soil. But I will do a little overhead watering just to make sure that it starts off good and everything gets nice and moist. So you can see I'm covering all these up. This is good. Now, these are older seeds. I've had them a couple years, so I don't know how well they're going to do, but they all look in good shape. None of them floated in the water. They all sunk to the bottom. A lot of times floating in the water means that maybe a bug has gotten to them and hollowed out the inside. That's pretty typical with nuts and things. They have a lot of issues with that, but not so much with other stuff. So there we go. All right, so the last thing I'm going to do with these is make sure that they are nice and wet. I just have a jug of water with me. We reuse a lot of stuff at the house, so juice containers and things like that that the kids use become watering cans. Need a little bit more water for this. Okay, but I'll come back and do that here in a little bit. And in the meantime, I'm going to take this tray and I'm going to move it up over here to my shelf. Move that over. I'll explain that another time. But I've got these heat mats right here that keep it on the thermostat. You can see right there it is 65.8 degrees on the heat map, and I have it kind of set up so it's measuring the heat inside that plastic cup. That's another way that I germinate some seeds. They're my mini plastic greenhouses. I've done that for years. It works great. I'll have another video on that one later though. So if I'm coming over here, I'll take my tray and I'm just going to slide it up here under the lights. Okay, it doesn't need the light to germinate because those things are buried deep, but once they do germinate, they'll have that light ready to go. And of course those other pots there, I've got things like peppers in them, so they do like a little bit of light as soon as they germinate. And these are just your typical shop lamps. There's nothing fancy about them. They're not grow lights. They're just the typical, I think they're T12. But you can do whatever you need. LED lights work great, especially in the red and blue spectrums, but I've never done that. I just use what I've got here. So that's a lot of what I do, is I just use what I have. So I'll be back when these start to germinate and I'll show you the results from that. One more thing, I went and I put this plastic cover over top. These are made to fit the 1020 trays and they work really great, but you don't have to have this in order to get things to work right. Okay, the purpose of this is to keep the humidity high on the inside so I'm not having to water it all the time. But you can use a lot of reused plastic containers and cover it up and put in peat pots inside there, or coir, whatever you decide to use. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. So don't feel like you have to go run out and get this kind of stuff. It's not that expensive. It's handy to have around, and these have lasted quite a few years of constant use. So it's just a matter of taking care of them. But I just wanted to show you that, make sure that you keep the humidity inside. And I did go through and added some extra water to it, so you can see there's a tiny bit of standing water in there. The rest of it's all going to wick up into the coir pots and into the soil around it. So anyway, I'll come back and I'll show you the progress of these in a few days with probably a different video and give you some more updates on some garden stuff. So for now, thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe this video, and we'll be seeing you soon.